Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakrito Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine व्योमवत् व्याप्त देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। We have come to the last couple of verses, mantras of the second Valli. Remember, all this is meant to help us understand and assimilate Atmajnanam. So the whole sequence, as you saw, talks about what Atmajnanam is not and how it cannot be gained. And then into saying how it can be gained, then goes into great detail about what this jnanam is in the further sections. Anybody has any comments, doubts, questions about the first two vallis? Please send it up to Jayaji. He's compiling them. He's got a few already with him, he said. And once we finish these next 2-3 mantras, we will allocate some time only to discuss those specific questions or doubts or comments. And we will look at them before we proceed to the next Valli, where there's a very beautiful imagery. We will look at all of that. Right now we are on mantra 23. Yadyapi durvignyeyah ayamatma tathapi upayena suvigneya eva iti aha. Although we realize it is not something easy to gain, and therefore this next verses kept talking about how it cannot be gained. But with the right method, with the right approach, this knowledge is available to any human being. So even though it is durvigneha, it is available for any human being, as long as one uses the right methodology, right attitude, one's preparation is complete. So we've seen there are many factors that come into the picture. The readiness of the student, the adequate amount of punya which will lead the student to in the right direction, the availability of a teacher, and a teacher who is Shrotriya Brahmanistha. All of these is re-emphasized in these. We saw this Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha na medhaya na bahuna shrutena yame vaisha brunute tena labhyaha tasyaisha atma virnute tanugum swam. Not only should the student be well prepared, not only should the student have collected adequate punya, not only should the student have cleared the mind of all the cobwebs, all the pressures that day-to-day living brings into the mind. Not only should the student not have reached a state of clarity in the mind, calmness in the mind, but the student should also have clarity about what he wants. Mumukshutvam. Even if I'm still struggling to figure out what moksha is, that there is something to know, and that the only way to know that is through the words of the Shastra with the help of a teacher, and therefore a certain commitment to gaining that knowledge on the part of the student who says, I want to know. It is not something which he is going to find accidentally. Only then is there any possibility that the self-revealing Atma will reveal itself to the student. Very beautiful. On the one hand, the student must have a proactive desire to know. Must be a jignasu. And with that preparation, must expose himself or herself to the pramana. After that, you leave it to the pramana. Then Atma being self-revealing, you cannot and do not need another pramana to reveal the Atma. It has to be revealed by the Atma itself. When I say that, the image one gets in the mind is that there's an Atma somewhere here and the Atma has to reveal itself to me. What it really means is that I recognize I as the Atma. So when it says it's a self-revealing Atma, it is one's own recognition of the nature of I. One's own recognition of the non-existence of the individuality. So all these negative statements, I am Atma pravachanena na labhyaha. simply because one has access to this. I put it in the car in a loop and keep on hearing it again and again. That's not adequate. Na medhaya, na bahuna shrutena. I have the capacity to know because I know the language. And therefore, what the Shastra says, I think I know. But even that is not adequate. We've seen in some earlier verses, if you remember, what verse was that? No. Shravanayapi bahubiryo na labhya. Even though you do Shravanam, it may not be available. One needs a teacher. Shrunvantopi bahavaha yam na vidyuhu. We saw all these. One has to have the right type of teacher. Na avarena prokta eshaha suvigneyaha. Even though it is variously imagined, bahuda chintyamanaha, not available. Nor available for mere tarka, logic. Na esha tarkena matira apaneya. All this we saw. It is re-emphasizing the same kind of thing, that what is required for the student to gain this knowledge? What is inadequate? What is necessary but not sufficient? So one has to have an attitude of a karma yogi. One has to have all the adhikaritvam. One has to have punya. One has to gain a certain level of equanimity of the mind. One has to be absolutely certain about this is what I want, and not every now and then look around and say, I'm missing all this. That fellow has a private plane. I could also get one if I tried. Not be fooled like that. Not that one is prevented from having a private plane, but that private plane symbolically draws one away from this. So the focus on knowing the Atma gets diluted. With the private plane comes all the problems. Fuel prices have gone up. Parking space in the airport has gone up. All that becomes an issue. So instead of assisting in the process of gaining this knowledge, it should not become a distraction. So ayam atma pravachanena na labhyaha, na medhaya api, na bahuna shrutena. Then how? Yam eva esha vrunute. One has to ask for it. One has to have an overwhelming desire to know. Then esha atma vivrunute. Atma reveals itself. It is not as if there's a screen around the Atma. Atma is outside somewhere and screen is removed. I see the Atma. No, I recognize I as the Atma. Drop all the other false eyes. So this Acharya explains in some detail as we saw. We will read the Bashyam. Nayamatma pravachanena
pravachanena
Aneka Veda Swikaranena
अनेक वेद स्वीकरणेन
Atma na labhyah
न लभ्यः
Nyeyah. This cannot be known simply because Aneka Veda Swikaranena. Either one can say that I know the entire Veda, I have my Veda, Krishna Yajurveda, I know everything inside out, I know the Karma Kanda, I know the Jnana Kanda, I know the Brahmana, or I'm a Chaturvedi, I know all the Vedas. That's not adequate. So, Aneka Veda Svikarnena na labhyah. Napi Vedaya Granthartha Dharana Shaktya
धारणशक्त्या
Labhyah. Understood. Labhyah is understood. Medhaya, Acharya said, Granthartha Dharana Shaktya. The ability to understand the Granthartha, not adequate. Na Bhauna Shrutena,
बहुना श्रुतेन
na Bahushutyena Kevalena.
न बाहुश्रुतेन केवलेन
This word Kevalena you can put in each of these sentences. Merely by repeatedly hearing is not adequate. Bahuna Shrutena Kevalena Bahuna Shrutena na labhyah. All right. All this time you said you have to do Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Now you're saying Shravana is not adequate. True. Kena tarhi labhyah
तर्हि लभ्यः
ityuchyate.
इत्युच्यते
So now, therefore, then how do I know? It is told Yameva
यमेव
Atmanam Yeshah
स्वात्मानं एषः
Sadakah Vrunute
साधकः वृणुते
Arthayate
प्रार्थयते
Tena Evam Atmana Varitra
तेन एव आत्मना वरित्रा
Swayamatma Labhyah
स्वयमात्मा लभ्यः
Nyayate Ityetat.
ज्ञायते इत्येतत्
This Atma Swatmanam Yeshah Sadakaha Vrunute, that intense desire to know, Jignasa. Without that, nothing is going to help. So this Sadakaha Vrunute, Prarthayate, Tena eva Atmana Varitra Swayamatma Labhyah. Only for that Sadakaha, who has this great intensity to know the nature of the Atma, nature of I, will that be available? We saw up to this in the last class. We'll read further. Nishkamaha
निष्कामः
cha atmanameva prarthayatah
च आत्मानम् एव प्रार्थयतः
atmana eva atma labhyate.
आत्मना एव
आत्मा लभ्यते
Therefore, atmana eva atma labhyate. This is the sentence I was saying we should understand. It is not that there is an Atma outside somewhere which is going to reveal itself and therefore we go to know. I should know the Atma as I. One can say that I can start by saying that there is one Parameshwara who is the Abhinna Nimitta Karana for everything, and therefore everything is only the one Paramatma. But then I have to go on to the next step where I have to understand that that is I. Because all that, when I say everything is from that one Ishvara, that all that includes everything that I thought I was. I still have something left because I still exist. So that understanding, that assimilation of that knowledge has to happen as Atmana Swayamatma Labhyaha. Nishkamasya. Why does it say Nishkamasya? As long as you have other needs in life, sometime or the other they'll take priority. At some point of a time or the other, they will take priority. If one is not alert to that, that will become the driving force. So this search for knowing the Atma will fall down in the list. That one has to be alert to all the time, and therefore Nishkamasya. The beauty in this is that you don't have, necessarily it doesn't say you don't have other wishes. As long as you're very clear in the mind that every other desire, every other karma, only when it supports my real mukshutvam does it make sense for me. If it is not going to support mumukshutvam, and especially if it's going to take me away from it, we will see in the next Valli, that beautiful imagery I told you, how that can easily happen. Therefore, nishkamasya atmana eva praptayataha atmana eva atma labhyate ityarthaha. Then he says, katham labhyate atmana eva atma labhyate. How? How do I gain this knowledge? Much more detail will be available as we go along, because there's one more Valli here, plus another 3 Vallis in the next chapter still to go. But he talks about it, Acharya talks about it. Tasya Atmakamasya Eshaha
आत्मकामस्य एषः
Atma Vivranute
आत्मा विवृणुते
Prakashayati
प्रकाशयति
प्रकाशयति
Paramartikim Tanum Swam
पारमार्थिकीं तनुं
स्वाम्
स्वाम्
Swakiyam
स्वकीयां
Yatatmyam
स्वकीयां
स्वकीयां
स्वयात्मयम्
स्वयात्मयम् इत्यर्थः
Atma Kamasya, for the Atma Kama, one whose priority desire is to know the Atma, the nature of the Atma, nature of the self, nature of Brahman. For such a person, you need the grace of Ishvara. You need the grace of Atma. You also need the grace of the Guru. So the Eshaha here, all three. Therefore we say that as long as I am in the process of trying to understand, I have no choice but to accept a Sarvajna, Sarvashaktiman Ishvara. The more Ishvara I have in my life, the better the chance, because the more chance of my gaining the grace of Ishvara. Atma itself has to reveal itself as I, and in the process, since I don't know Atma yet, I need Ishvara's grace. So I pray to Ishvara. Therefore, the step toward this is Dvaitam. That's why you don't have a problem whether you pray to Perumal or Shiva or Krishna or even Christ or anybody else. As long as you have that confidence that Sarvajna, Sarvashaktiman, His grace I seek, I will be the gainer. Atma's grace is required, but Atma I don't know yet. Therefore, Ishvara's grace I seek. Even to reach that, to gain Ishvara's grace, I imbue in my Guru the same Ishvaratvam. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara. And I seek the blessing of the Guru. All these blessings are required till I gain that status of knowing. Therefore, Atma Kamasya Esha Atma Vivrunute. Although Acharya says Esha Atma Vivrunute, Prakashayati, reveals itself, it is really the grace of Atma, grace of Ishvara, and the grace of the Guru. Therefore, we seek this grace because these are easier. Guru's grace is the most visible, most tangible. Ishvara's grace, we pray, we hope for. Atma's grace, somewhere in the ether, we'll seek that grace as well. We know that without Atma revealing itself, I'm not going to gain this. Therefore, all three are my prayers, that I gain all these three. The Tikakara has some slightly more detail in the same thing, but along the same lines. Atma tu esha prakarani paramatma antaryami rupena acharya rupena va vyavastitha yameva mumukshum vrinute bhajate anugrunnati. The Tikakara explains this in words. Dharmaraja doesn't stop there. He goes on. All this is necessary. The grace of Ishvara, the grace of Atma, the grace of Guru, all necessary. But that grace has to be received. Are you ready to receive that grace? That anugraha. So in the next, I personally think it's a very beautiful mantra. Talks about that one qualification, which is summation of all qualifications, in my opinion. a mind which is tranquil, a mind which is calm, a mind which is receptive. That becomes an absolutely prime condition for this. So in the next verse, Yamadharmaraja talks about this in double negatives. He who does not have this Atma Shanti cannot get. Or double negatives. Kincha Anyat, moreover,
Anyat
Na Virato Dushcharitad,
Na virto dushcharita,
Na Shanto Na Samahitaha,
na shanto na samahitah,
Mahitah,
Na Shanta Manaso Vapi,
na
na
shantam
shantamanaso
vapi,
vapi,
Prajnanenainam Apnuyat,
prajnane
prajnanenayana
nainam
mapnuyat,
can be gained only through knowledge. Prajnanena enam apnuyat. This can be gained only through clear knowledge. Because this is such subtle knowledge, unless the mind is well prepared, Samskrita buddhi, it is not ready to absorb this. This knowledge, even our normal, in normal life, in the Jagat, there are many things which we find very difficult to absorb. Unless the mind is well prepared. Complex equations, somebody is trying to teach me and my mind has gone elsewhere. I cannot gain. You sit in an engineering class, and unless the mind is focused on what the teacher is teaching, it will all fly over the head. Even in our normal day-to-day things. This is much, much more subtle. So, Manashanti, a mind which is ready to absorb and assimilate this knowledge, becomes critical. So for that, what does he say? He's pointing out three things for that. Na avirataha dushcharitat. Avirataha is one which is withdrawn. Na avirataha, one which is not withdrawn, whose mind is not withdrawn from what? Dushcharitat. Correct conduct. In Bhagavad Gita, even for Karma Yoga, Bhagavan says, Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Kaushalam is an expertise, a skill. But in the context of this knowledge, is much more than that. A skill in recognizing what is dharmic, what is adharmic, and to be able to practice this in life. Because one thing is very clear. if one engages in any kind of adharma activity, the mind cannot be still. Mind will get agitated. Because we know that what I'm doing is incorrect. What I'm doing is incorrect because I don't want anybody else to do the same thing to me. Therefore, there is always certain agitation in the mind. You will find people who engage in this kind of duscharita will always try to justify it. And how they justify it is by saying, no, this is good for me. Therefore, I will do more of it. Justification for myself. Or show anger. If somebody points out that what you're doing is not right. Because you know in the heart of hearts that this is adharma. The adharma simply because I know it is something that I don't want anybody else to do to me. Therefore, any activity, duscharita, any conduct which goes against dharma is a sure way to agitate the mind. And an agitated mind has no chance of receiving this knowledge and assimilating this knowledge. Therefore, it's so important. Na avirataha duscharitat. He makes it even clearer. Na shanto na samahitaha. Na ashantaha. You can't get there without manashanti. Makes it very clear. Without manashanti, this is not going to happen. And one which is contained, samahitaha, where external forces, other wants, other desires, as we saw earlier, they tend to overtake. If that were to happen, you're not going to get it. So Mother Mother makes it very clear. Na shanto na asamahitaha. Samahitaha asamahitaha. And then one more similar sounding word, which we will see how Acharya talks about it. Na shanta manaso va api. If the manas is not at rest, then also you won't get. And what does that mean? Why is he repeating himself? Acharya will talk about it. All look similar, but that's why I'm saying it's so important for the mind to be at peace with itself. Mind not to get overly agitated by anything at all. And anything that you do, even if it is actually, if you look at things we want, even if it is dharmic, even that will create a certain amount of disturbance. Adharmic, forget, that just won't allow the mind to operate. Even dharmic. That's why I said I want to get a private plane. Nothing wrong with it as long as I work on it within the bounds of dharma. But that's going to overtake your primary purpose. If nothing else, it will delay your process at the least. So, Ashanta Manasaha api won't get this. And therefore, it says, only through prajnanenam enam apnuyat. Apnoti. Only through clear knowledge in a prepared mind, in a mind which is Shanta, can we hope to gain this knowledge. This is a process. I don't expect, having lived my life for so many years, always wanting this, wanting the other, wanting the third, to suddenly be able to transform into one which does not create agitation. It will take time. It will take a process. But it can be done and has to be done. So one who is not withdrawn from wrong conduct, one who does not have, whose senses drive the person. The moment your senses drive the person, it will overwhelm this mumukshutva. One who has no ability to hold on to the mind, ekagrata is not there, it keeps flitting into other things. Such a person would not find it easy, in fact, not find it possible to gain this knowledge. So Acharya takes us up, since it looks like all these words are similar. Nashanto, na samahitaha, nashanta manasaha. All of these look very similar. And in Upanishads, you will never find repetition without a purpose. So Acharya takes it up, and that's why we need Bashyam to understand what it says. Na duscharitat
Na duscharitat
pratipada shruti smriti vihitat
Pradashruti Smriti Vihitat.
pratishiddhat, prohibited by. Shruti smriti vihitat.
Shruti Smriti Vihitat.
Papakarmanaha
Papakarmanaha
avirataha
Avirataha
anuparataha.
Anuparataha.
All negatives. Uparataha, you know. Anuparataha. So that, as long as one's conduct in life, charitram, is duscharita, is negative, is wrong conduct. That is, what is wrong conduct? Acharya says, pratishiddhat, which is prohibited by shruti smriti vihitat. That which is not allowed by shruti smriti. Interestingly, there's some debate on this issue. If you don't do what is to be done, it does not incur papa. If you are supposed to do certain karma and you don't do it, it does not incur papa. There are some argument against it. There's a people say, no, that also should incur papa. But what happens is, if you don't do what is prescribed, the chances are that you will do what is proscribed. And that is definite papa. And papa in the sense that I don't care about punya papa, but papa in the sense that it is going to create ashanti in the mind. So I will go back in my effort to gain moksha. Therefore it says, Pratishiddhat Shruti Smriti Vihitat. That kind of papa karmanaha, what is prescribed by, what is prohibited by, that if you don't withdraw from, that means you don't engage in that, avirataha, and don't get pulled by that. If you get pulled by that, then agitation takes place, therefore one mind is not ready. Then the next word he uses, ashantaha, to which Acharya says, na api
na api
indriya laulyat
indriya laulyat
ashantaha
Ashantah.
anuparataha.
Anuparatah.
When the mind, the senses have a tendency to go after sense objects, that is the normal nature. If you in the horses, we put blinkers, no? For horses, because horses have a tendency, if they see grass on this side, they will go there. To prevent the horse from doing that, you put blinkers on the horses. You will see that in the imagery that we see. This horse, like the horse, the senses have a tendency to go towards sense objects. I know somebody who, while walking on the street, will suddenly say, somebody is making nice bhaji somewhere, and go in that direction, That's where your smell will take you. Or away from something. If you're a non-meat eating person, sometimes on the street they cook this meat, horrible smell. You want to avoid that. That is the nature of the senses. So, indriya laulyat ashantaha. The tendency of the senses to chase after sense objects. Then he also uses the same nashanto na asamahitaha. That which is not samahita. Napi
Na api
asamahitaha
asamahitah.
anekagramanaha
Anekagramanaha.
vikshipta chittaha.
Vikshipta chittah.
Mind is not focused, doesn't remain on the priority goal. Your priority goal is moksha. But the mind doesn't stay there. One sees somebody else having something which I have always wanted. I see somebody having a nice car, a BMW 7 Series. My mind goes there. And mind draws a wrong conclusion. he has this BMW 7 Series, how happy he must be. Wrong conclusion. Observation is correct. He has certain things which I don't have. Somehow in my mind, I associate that with being happy, which is not true at all. But that association is there. Therefore, the mind, while I am trying to study and see somebody, why go that far? I see somebody able to sing extremely well. And I say, my God, I wish I could sing like that. Or somebody has wonderful scholarship in grammar, Vyakarana. Wow, what a wonderful ability. I wish I had that. I don't know how many times we come across this. We see somebody with a certain ability, certain skill, certain position, and immediately say, I wish I had that. Distraction. Although in my mind I have set out to say that I'm going to gain moksha, I'm getting pulled in different directions. Anekagramanaha. Therefore, I am not staying with my focused mumukshutvam. Vikshipta chittaha. A distracted mind. That's why he said, Vivranute, unless your desire for moksha is so strong that every other desire subserves that desire. Therefore, Vivranute, yam esha eva Vivranute tena labhyaha. Only by him it is gained. By somebody whose mind is distracted by other things, this is not going to be available. Therefore, napi asamahitaha, where there is chitta samadhanam, where I am not pulled in different directions. There's contentment. People will argue, Swamiji, if everybody is content like that, where is progress? Progress towards what? If your goal is moksha, progress has to be measured in terms of how far you're going in that direction. Everything else becomes distraction. So, anekagramanaha, vikshipta chittaha, that mind which is distracted. Even when there is samahita chitta, there is a certain joy in that samahita chitta. I know I have control over my mind. Even that joy can be distracting. I am a great mumukshu. Is a joy. I know I am a great mumukshu. I know my ability to not chase after sense objects. Therefore, I am great. Even that will distract. Not have desire for anything else take priority over the desire for moksha, including the desire to gain that samahita chitta, the phala of samahita chitta, even that I want to eschew. Therefore, samahita, very beautiful, samahita chitta api sanna samadhana phalarthitvat. That samadhanam has a phala. That phala, I'm saying, oh, I'm such a quiet person, I'm such a contained person. Even that, Acharya says, is not what is required. Samahita chittopi sanna samadhana phalarthitvat na pi ashantamanasaha. So this third one, where he says, nashantamanaso vapi, Acharya explains in a little bit more detail, which we can look at in tomorrow's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.